Have you ever really wondered how flowering plants basically took over the entire planet? It's not just because they have pretty petals. Nope. They have an evolutionary superpower, a reproductive strategy so incredibly efficient it's let them dominate the plant kingdom. We're talking about a process called double fertilization, and it is truly one of nature's cleverest tricks. I mean, just think about that for a second. 90%. From the grass in your backyard to the giant trees in the Amazon, 9 out of every 10 plants you see on land are flowering plants. That is just a staggering level of success. So what's their secret? Well, the answer isn't about being bigger or stronger. It's all about efficiency. They developed this method of reproduction that is so precise, it avoids wasting a single drop of energy. It's like a tiny, microscopic drama with enormous consequences for all life on Earth. And this is the heart of it all, double fertilization. You can think of it as a 2-for-1 deal happening at a cellular level. You have one female reproductive cell, right? And it fuses with not one, but 2 male sperm cells. And this simple fact leads to 2 totally separate but totally vital outcomes that give these plants their winning edge. So, let's break this down. The best way to picture it is to think of it as a high-stakes, microscopic mission. Our hero is a single, tiny pollen grain, and its objective, to deliver its precious genetic cargo to a target hidden deep inside the flower. The whole future of the plant hangs in the balance. So who are we talking about here? Well, the scientific name for all flowering plants is angiosperms. They are, by far, the most diverse group of plants on land, and the reason for all that success is this very process we're about to dive into. Okay, so the mission doesn't start with a big bang, it starts with a very delicate landing. And the very first challenge is all about communication. Before this journey can even begin, the pollen has to prove it's the right stuff. So our little pollen grain, carrying its 2 sperm cells, lands on the stigma. That's the receptive tip of the flower's female parts. But you gotta understand, this isn't just a passive landing strip. The stigma is a highly selective gatekeeper. A very sophisticated chemical conversation is about to kick off. It's kind of like a secret handshake. The stigma uses these specific proteins to check the pollen's ID. If it's from the right species and everything checks out, boom, it gets the green light. It gets hydrated and is allowed to start growing. But if it's the wrong kind of pollen, or even from a genetically incompatible plant of the same species, it's rejected. Mission failed before it even started. All right, once our pollen grain is accepted, it's on to the next phase, a really dangerous journey downward. It has to grow a tube through completely foreign territory, all while racing against the clock to deliver its cargo. Now, this journey is just a marvel of biology. The pollen grows this long tube that first has to push through the stigma, then navigate a long channel called the style. Its target, the ovule, is buried way down deep inside the ovary. We're talking a journey that can be hundreds or even thousands of times its own length. And what's really wild is that, unlike animal sperm, these plant sperm cells can't move on their own. They can't swim. They are totally immobile passengers. So this pollen tube is their vehicle, it's their lifeline, and it's responsible for navigating the entire trip and getting them there safely. But this journey is full of peril. The pollen tube is growing under incredible internal pressure. To keep from just bursting open, it has to get constant chemical signals from the female tissue that are basically saying, hey, stay strong, hold it together. If that signal fails, the tube can rupture, and the whole mission is a catastrophic failure. So you might be wondering, how in the world does this tube know where it's going? It's not just growing blindly. The ovule, its destination, is acting like a homing beacon, releasing a trail of chemical signals for the tube to follow. It's essentially a microscopic GPS system. The tube can actually sense the concentration of specific molecules, like a chemical scent trail, and it grows toward wherever that scent is strongest. This process, called chemoattraction, makes sure it doesn't get lost on the way. And what is this scent trail made of? Well, these chemical guides are often tiny proteins that scientists call lures. They're sent out by these special helper cells inside the ovule, and they create a path that guides the pollen tube right to the ovule's front door, an opening called the micropyle. Okay, after that long and difficult journey, the pollen tube has arrived. Now it's time for the climax of the mission, delivering its double payload and pulling off the 2 critical fusions that define this entire process. And this is where things get really clever. Remember those chemical signals that were telling the tube to stay strong and not burst? Well, now that it's arrived, the ovule releases a completely different signal. This new signal is the opposite. It's a command that says, "You're here. Rupture now." This triggers a controlled burst, releasing the 2 sperm cells with perfect precision, right at the target. And it releases, you guessed it, 2 sperm cells. 2. This number is absolutely key to everything. 2 sperm cells ready for 2 very different but equally important jobs. Okay, this is the moment we get the double in double fertilization. Let's break it down. Sperm cell number 1 fuses with the egg cell. That's the fertilization we're all familiar with. It creates the embryo, which now has 2 sets of chromosomes. But sperm cell number 2 does something totally unique. It fuses with 2 other nuclei in the central cell, creating a special tissue that has 3 sets of chromosomes. This tissue is called the endosperm. And this 2-part fusion, this whole complex dance, this is the evolutionary masterstroke we've been talking about. It's not just about creating a new plant, it's about giving that new plant the absolute best start in life and doing it with 0 wasted effort. That endosperm, the thing created by the second fusion, is basically a packed lunch for the baby plant. It's this rich, nutritious tissue that feeds the embryo while it's developing and when it's just starting to grow. When you eat the starchy white part of a corn kernel or coconut meat, yep, that's all endosperm. So why is this such a game changer? Well, for one, the plant creates the baby and its food at the exact same time. It's incredibly efficient. It doesn't waste any energy making food unless it knows fertilization was a success. This whole strategy makes the seed way more likely to survive. And it even triggers the flower's ovary to develop into a fruit, which helps spread the seeds around. It's a complete package for success. And it all comes down to this, a tiny seed, complete with an embryo and its own custom-made, pre-packed lunch, all created through one of the most intricate and elegant processes in the natural world. So the next time you see a flower, remember, you're not just looking at something beautiful. You're looking at the engine of an evolutionary strategy that literally conquered the planet. It's an absolutely ingenious design for survival, and it's happening all around you all the time.